Most Toyota hybrid owners think they are getting everything out of their car just because the fuel economy is good and the car never gives them trouble. The reality is, there is a whole layer of things happening inside a Toyota hybrid that the manual glosses over, and the dealership never brings up because either they do not think you care or they are quietly making money on what you do not know. I have been working on these cars for a long time. I use these same tricks on my own hybrid and on the hybrids owned by people I actually care about. And number 9 is the one that makes every person push back the first time they hear it, right up until they think about the engineering and realize it makes complete sense. Let us get into it. Trick number 1. Your high-voltage battery has a cooling fan with an intake filter that most owners have never touched, and ignoring it is one of the fastest ways to kill the most expensive part of your car. Every Toyota hybrid sold in America, whether it is a Prius, a Camry hybrid, a RAV4 hybrid, a Highlander hybrid, or a Corolla hybrid, has a high-voltage battery pack that requires active cooling to stay healthy. Toyota handles this with a small blower fan that pulls air from the passenger cabin and circulates it across the battery. Between that fan and the cabin sits a flat mesh intake filter that catches dust, pet hair, and debris before any of it reaches the battery. On most Prius models, this intake filter sits near the rear seat on the passenger side. On the RAV4 hybrid and Highlander hybrid, it is beneath or beside the second row seat. On Camry and Avalon hybrids, it is mounted on the left side of the rear passenger compartment. Toyota Technical Service Bulletin, TSB 0062-20, explicitly says this high-voltage battery intake filter should be inspected every 5,000 miles and cleaned every 20,000 miles. That is an official Toyota document, not a suggestion. And yet dealers have been caught charging $150 to $300 for that cleaning service, which is a 10-minute job that costs you nothing. If you have a dog or live somewhere dusty, check it even more often. A clogged filter means reduced airflow, a hotter battery, and accelerated capacity loss. Heat is the single biggest enemy of hybrid battery chemistry, and this filter is your first line of defense. Trick number 2. Your Toyota hybrid does not have one coolant system. It has 2 separate and independent loops, and almost no one services the second one. Every mechanic in America knows about the engine cooling system, the radiator, the water pump, the coolant reservoir. But Toyota hybrids run a completely separate cooling loop specifically for the power inverter, the component housed in a box in the engine bay that converts the direct current from the high-voltage battery into the alternating current the electric traction motor needs to drive the wheels. That conversion generates real heat, and Toyota gave the inverter its own electric pump, its own reservoir, and its own closed circuit. Both systems use Toyota Super Long Life coolant, the pink fluid, but on separate service schedules. The factory calls for the first inverter coolant replacement at 150,000 miles or 180 months, then every 50,000 miles after that. Almost no non-specialist ever touches this loop because it never appears on a standard service checklist. Old coolant turns acidic over time and corrodes the small aluminum passages inside the inverter's heat exchanger. Inverter failure is one of the most expensive repairs on any Toyota hybrid. Servicing the coolant costs almost nothing by comparison. Trick number 3. Your high-voltage battery warranty is probably better than your dealer told you, and the specifics depend on your state. Toyota hybrids from model year 2020 and newer carry a 10-year or 150,000-mile high-voltage traction battery warranty. For 2019 and older models, the warranty is 8 years or 100,000 miles. Beyond the federal coverage, if you live in California or in one of the states that follows California Air Resources Board emission standards, your warranty protection for emissions-related components, which the battery qualifies under, can be even stronger than the standard federal terms require. Dealers frequently hand you a single number and move on. Before you authorize a diagnostic charge for any hybrid system complaint, ask for the written warranty documentation for your specific model year and your specific state. Do not rely on what someone tells you verbally at the service counter. Trick number 4. A $25 Bluetooth adapter and a free app will show you the condition of every individual cell inside your high-voltage battery, months before any warning light appears on your dashboard. By the time the yellow triangle or the check hybrid system warning illuminates on your instrument cluster, the battery has already deteriorated enough to trigger a fault code. Mechanics who specialize in Toyota hybrids do not wait for that moment. The Dr. Prius app, available on iPhone and Android, connects to your car through a compatible ELM327 Bluetooth OBD2 adapter that plugs into the diagnostic port under the left side of the driver's dashboard. The app communicates directly with the hybrid battery management computer and displays the charge level and voltage for every individual cell block in the high-voltage battery pack. What you are looking for when you run the load test inside the app is uniformity. A healthy pack shows all cell blocks tracking within roughly 0.1 volts of each other. When one block starts falling noticeably below the rest, that block is beginning to fail ahead of the others. Knowing this months before a dashboard warning appears gives you time to address a single weak module, rather than being surprised by a full battery replacement bill. Trick number 5. Your brake fluid is absorbing moisture and degrading right now, even if your brake pads look almost brand new. Because Toyota's regenerative braking system handles most of the slowing, using the electric traction motor to capture energy and feed it back to the high-voltage battery. Brake pads on a Prius, Camry Hybrid, or RAV4 Hybrid can easily go 80,000 to 100,000 miles before wearing out. That is impressive, but it creates a trap. Because the pads last so long, most hybrid owners assume the entire braking system needs no attention for the same period. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, meaning it pulls moisture from the atmosphere through the rubber brake hoses and the master cylinder reservoir cap over time. That happens whether the pads are used heavily or barely at all. As moisture content in the fluid rises, its boiling point drops, and degraded brake fluid at high heat is a serious safety concern. Toyota published maintenance guidance calls for brake fluid inspection at regular service intervals and replacement based on condition. Most experienced hybrid mechanics recommend a full flush every 2 to 3 years regardless of how the pads look. The fluid is cheap. What happens when it fails is not. Trick number 6. The electronically controlled continuously variable Transaxle fluid in your hybrid is not on Toyota's mandatory replacement schedule. But the mechanics who specialize in these cars change it anyway. Toyota's factory maintenance schedule for the hybrid electronically controlled continuously variable Transaxle calls for inspection only under normal driving conditions, not a scheduled drain and fill. The factory reasoning is that this Transaxle operates in a less mechanically aggressive environment than a conventional stepped automatic transmission. That is partially true. Independent hybrid specialists who pull fluid samples from high-mileage Transaxles consistently find degraded fluid that no longer provides the same protection it did when new. The correct and only acceptable fluid is Toyota Genuine ATF-WS. Using anything else in the hybrid transaxle can interfere with the hydraulic circuit controlling the power split mechanism. Most experienced hybrid technicians recommend a drain and refill between 60,000 and 100,000 miles, especially for vehicles doing frequent short trips, operating in hot climates, or towing. After you drain, check the drain plug. A light paste of very fine metallic material is normal. Chunks are not. Trick number 7. Eco mode on your Toyota hybrid changes the engine's start-stop logic, not just the throttle feel, and understanding that changes when you should use it. Every Toyota hybrid sold in the United States has an Eco mode button, usually on the center console or instrument panel. Most owners treat it as a basic fuel saver toggle. What it actually does is more specific. In Eco mode, the threshold at which the gasoline engine is allowed to start gets raised, keeping the engine off longer during low-speed city driving and relying more on the electric traction motor. The climate control compressor is also modulated to reduce its electrical demand on the high-voltage battery. The accelerator pedal input map is softened. The combined result is fewer engine start cycles, less cold start fuel consumption, less cold start engine wear, and more miles covered on electric power alone. The trade-off is real. Eco mode makes the car less responsive and makes climate control slower to react on very hot days. Use it deliberately in stop-and-go traffic where keeping the engine off matters most, and turn it off when you actually need the car to move. Trick number 8. The B position on your gear selector is a downhill brake tool, not an efficiency feature, and using it in normal driving is costing you fuel every single time. Almost every Toyota hybrid with a traditional gear selector has a B position below D. New hybrid owners assume B stands for something that enhances regenerative braking or captures more energy. It does not. B stands for engine braking. When you shift into B, the hybrid control system engages the gasoline engine as a drag device, using the engine's internal compression resistance to slow the car. Toyota engineered B mode for long sustained downhill grades where the high voltage battery is already near its charge limit and cannot accept significant regenerative current, and where friction brakes alone would overheat on a long descent. In normal city and highway driving, using B mode is wasteful. In drive mode, gentle braking sends kinetic energy back into the high-voltage battery via the electric motor acting as a generator. In B mode, that same energy is converted to heat inside the engine and lost. Reserve B mode for what Toyota actually built it for. Trick number 9. Stop idling your cold Toyota hybrid in park before you drive it every morning, because you are slowing the warm-up down, not helping it. This is the one that gets pushback every time. Decades of conventional car ownership trained people to believe that letting a cold engine idle in the driveway protects it. On an old carbureted engine in cold weather, there was some logic. The carburetor needed time to stabilize. Modern electronic fuel injection made that irrelevant years ago, and Toyota hybrids take it further still. When you press the power button and Ready appears on the instrument cluster, the hybrid control system has already assessed battery temperature, coolant temperature, and system readiness. When you then sit in park at idle, the engine will warm up more slowly than it would under a gentle moving load, because idle combustion generates less heat flow through the engine block and cylinder head than light load driving does. The car reaches operating temperature faster when it is actually moving under a small, real-world load. What mechanics who own hybrids do instead is get in, switch the climate control on, shift into drive, and drive away smoothly with light throttle for the first mile or two while everything warms up. The car warms faster, burns less fuel doing it, and accumulates less cold start wear. Trick number 10. Where and how you park your Toyota hybrid affects how long your high-voltage battery lasts, and almost no owner ever considers this. Toyota's high-voltage battery chemistry operates best between approximately 59 and 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Above that range, chemical degradation accelerates permanently. In a hot American summer, a Toyota hybrid parked in direct sun with the windows up can see interior temperatures climb above 130 degrees Fahrenheit in under an hour. The battery pack is insulated from the worst of it, but sustained ambient heat across hundreds of charge cycles still compounds into measurable capacity loss over time. Mechanics who own hybrids park in shaded or covered areas whenever possible, use the cabin precondition function in the Toyota app on eligible models before getting in on hot days, and avoid leaving the vehicle parked for extended periods in uncovered lots during summer heat waves. In cold climates, the concern shifts to the 12-volt auxiliary battery draining during long periods without use. Driving the car at least a few times per week is the simplest and cheapest maintenance available. Trick number 11. Pulse and glide is not an internet trick. It is the most powerful fuel economy technique a Toyota hybrid driver has, and it works because of exactly how these drivetrains are engineered. Pulse and glide works like this. You use moderate throttle to bring the car up to a target speed, usually somewhere between 40 and 55 miles per hour, and then ease completely off the throttle. At those moderate speeds, most Toyota hybrids disengage the gasoline engine entirely and allow the car to coast forward on momentum, with the electric traction motor drawing minimal or no current. The car moves forward, spending neither fuel nor stored battery charge. As its speed bleeds down, you pulse the throttle again. Done smoothly across several miles of lightly trafficked road, this approach can push real-world fuel economy well above the EPA estimate. The key is the energy flow display on the multi-information display inside the instrument cluster, which you access through the steering wheel buttons. Watch the arrows. When no energy flows to the motor and no energy flows to the battery, the car is coasting for free. That is your glide phase. Extend it as long as possible without needing to brake. This requires smooth anticipatory driving and enough clear space ahead. In heavy gridlock, it does not work. On a suburban boulevard or an open highway, it is the most powerful tool in your right foot. Trick number 12. The 12-volt auxiliary battery is the most common reason a well-maintained Toyota hybrid ends up stranded, and almost no hybrid owner thinks about it until it happens. This genuinely surprises people the first time they hear it. A Toyota hybrid, despite having a high-voltage battery pack operating at several hundred volts, cannot start without a healthy conventional 12-volt auxiliary battery. On most third-generation and later Prius models, this battery is a small absorbed glass mat unit located in the right side of the rear cargo area. On the 2016 and newer Prius and most RAV4 hybrid and Camry hybrid models, it is under the hood. When you press the power button, it is this 12-volt battery that wakes the hybrid system control electronics, initializes every module in the car, and signals the main power relay to connect the high-voltage pack to the drivetrain. If the 12-volt battery is weak or dead, none of that happens. The car simply does not respond. You cannot use the high-voltage battery as a backup, because the component that steps its voltage down to 12 volts, the DC to DC converter, cannot operate without the 12-volt system being alive first. Research from hybrid service specialists shows that roughly 80% of hybrid no-start situations involve the 12-volt auxiliary battery rather than the high-voltage pack. The 12-volt battery on hybrids typically lasts between 5 and 8 years, depending on climate and usage. Mechanics who own hybrids replace it proactively around year 6 or 7. An AGM replacement costs well under $200. A tow truck and a lost day of work costs considerably more. Those are the 12 things. The high-voltage battery cooling fan intake filter most owners have never touched. The separate inverter coolant loop that runs independently of the engine. The warranty terms that differ by model year and state. The OBD2 adapter and Dr. Prius app that show you individual cell voltages before any warning light fires. The brake fluid absorbing moisture while your pads look fine. The electronically controlled Transaxle fluid the manual says, inspect but experienced mechanics, drain and refill. Eco mode as a genuine engine start cycle tool. B mode saved strictly for long downhills. The cold morning idle that slows your engine's warm-up instead of helping it. Parking as real battery maintenance. Pulse and glide as the most effective fuel economy technique available. And the 12-volt auxiliary battery that strands more well-maintained hybrids than any high-voltage failure ever will. If this is the kind of information that is useful to you, hit subscribe. I put out videos like this every week with no dealership agenda behind them. Drop a comment below telling me what Toyota hybrid you are driving and how many miles you have on it. I genuinely want to know. Take care of your hybrid, and it will take care of you.